And good morning, everybody. We are live on this happy Friday morning. Congratulations, you made it through the week. Another week of amazing food safety, food quality, producing all those products mostly that people out there love and enjoy. And we thank you for that because what we do in food safety, food quality, unheralded. Everybody just expects it to automatically happen, but Cara and I know that's not the case. So thank you very much for all that you do. If you're new, welcome, pull up a chair. My name is Brian Armitrout, and I am with the Food Leadership Group. And every Friday at this time, at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn and YouTube, we live stream and bring a food safety topic to you. And the greatest part of this whole conversation is exactly that. It's a conversation. It's meant to share information because food safety, not a point of competition. And I think our guest, Cara, is going to definitely agree with that. Cara Mickelson is the Director of Food Safety at ChemStation. Cara, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Wonderful. Yeah, it's a little steamy here.
Ah, in Colorado, which is, yeah, one of the things that we do here. I'm in Loveland, Colorado, where again, it's going to be approaching 100 degrees, 37 C, so very, very hot. So it sounds like in Wisconsin, northern Illinois now, right?
Yeah.
So very hot for you there, right?
Yes, it's gonna hit like 95, I guess, again today. So
And high humidity, huh? Oh,
yes, yes. And like I'm a Wisco girl through and through. Like I don't adapt well to heat.
yeah. I don't like the heat either. I'd rather be cold than hot. No, thank you,
Yes.
hot. You can put on a coat and you can escape it. Hot, there's very little you can do
There's only
to
so much
yourself. Yeah. So one of the things that we love to do here in the chat, guys, is put in the comments, say hello this morning, as Cheryl's doing in Chicago, to let us know where in the world you're at, because as we often see here, Cara, we have people who join the chat from all over the world, which is just always super awesome. So we will do that, and everybody join us for this. So with that, really, today's chat is I think it's really one of those chats, Cara, that's near and dear to my heart, and I think it's something that's really overlooked in what we do in food safety and quality assurance, because it kind of falls into that same realm of if nothing's going wrong, you don't pay attention to it, and that's customer complaints. And if you're not paying attention to what your consumers are saying, man, you're in a lot of trouble, aren't you?
Yes, very much so. It's so important, and I agree with you. It's often overlooked, right?
Yeah.
It's oftentimes people. It's the second thought until something happens, and then it's a problem.
Yeah,
and everyone's concerned.
Yeah, it's like what we do with our morning drink, right? Is we all expect our morning coffee to taste exactly like we expect, and so let's see if mine does.
Mine doesn't today. Yeah.
Mine's good. It's good. Try to cut half and half out of my coffee, so it's black coffee. So that, I mean, it takes a little while to get used to that, but I think I'm there now. So okay, Cara, I got to do this to you. Are you ready? Are you ready for the dad joke? Okay. Well, I mean, actually, this is kind of an interesting story because recently I went into the office, and I work from home a lot, and I really don't go in a whole lot. And it was a really good opportunity, Cara, to kind of catch up on the latest, gossip in the office and stand around the water cooler and see what's going on. And I was really kind of surprised to learn this. I learned that someone in the office has been possessed. They've been possessed by an owl.
Ooh. But we did it.
See, now I'm dragging my guests in to participate into the dad jokes. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I apologize.
We have to disclose that the first time we tried that, I royally messed it up. So
it's one of those ones that it's just got to work quite right. Complaints, right? And so part of our vernacular around this, good morning, Ryan, is that there's kind of two levels that quality people talk about complaints. If you're working in a consumer packaged good company like I do, there's customer and consumer complaints. Kind of hear those things interchange. But in the world that I live in, here's how those kind of break up. So you'll hear me use these different terms. I want to make sure everybody has that basis for the terminology. So a customer is someone that you're selling the food to, then sells it to someone else. So for example, a grocery store, Kroger, Piggly Wiggly, if you're making food, they're your customer. You're sending the food to them, they're paying you, and then they're selling the product. The consumer is just, kind of like my coffee here, right? It's the person at the end of the process who's actually consuming the product. And those two different supply chains and complaint processes are different with that. And I just wanted to make that clear. Does that make sense,
Yeah,
Carl?
that absolutely makes sense. And there is a difference.
Okay. And so part of it is really one of the key things that you want around your complaint system is a very clear process for food safety complaint escalation. And with that, I don't want to keep him hanging around here too long because we got a special guest. We have a surprise guest who's sitting in the bullpen, patiently waiting for us to pull him up and call him up to duty. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to bring Tim Steffensmeyer to the stage, Vice President of Sales at Pure Bioscience. Science. I'm having trouble talking this morning. Good morning, Tim.
How's it going, guys?
And so we wanted to bring you on the chat because timing is everything. And there's a couple of issues that have been going on that I've been talking about on LinkedIn and that you've been talking about on LinkedIn. And I figured this was a great opportunity to kind of catch everybody up to speed on what you've been doing. But first, before we get into that, I want to do a pop quiz. I want to make sure that everybody on the chat is on the same page as us, and they've got this, they've got the same ability to discern and evaluate that we do. So, okay, we'll pull this up here now, guys. Are these two things the same? I've got an idea. Carl, what do you think? Are these two things the same or are they different?
Slightly different, right?
All right. Tim, what are you thinking there?
I don't know. Scientifically, the photos may show that they're both burnt bread.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The lab would. Yeah, I would say labs would agree that those are both burnt bread. I'm going to go that they're different, though. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think they may be different. And your wife's reaction was probably the correct one.
Yeah.
So for people who are new to what's going on here with our little joke there, why don't you kind of get everybody up to speed about what happened?
Sure. So I think it was like on the 22nd or 23rd. So it's been a few days now for sure. It was a long day, business work, late meetings. Johanna was busy with kid stuff, and about 9 o'clock at night, she's like, "We haven't eaten dinner yet." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Let's go." So I ran to the local grocery store to grab some gluten-free bread, some sandwich meat, and some things. Came back, helped my son with his brakes in the garage. Next thing I know, I hear her open the garage door with this voice that's not normal, almost emergency, something majorly wrong type voice. She's not a dramatic person like I can be sometimes. And she's like, "Hon, you need to come here right now. What is this, right?" And she's walking out holding a loaf of bread in his spots. And I'm like, "What the heck?" I thought maybe she cut herself or something, like I couldn't figure what was wrong. And I walk over there and I see this black rodent, or technically FMC, baked into the bread. It was disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. It was like spongy. It was just gross across the board, right? And so obviously, being the food safety person I am, that led to me making some calls to experts I know within my peer network and say, "Hey, next morning, first thing, like, hey, what do you guys recommend I do with this, right? Because I don't want to go crazy, but they need to be notified, the company for sure, right? And then what do I do beyond that? And who do I notify from the company? Like, I've got ideas, but I'm more of a sanitation versus quality guy, right? So, we started looking at LinkedIn, started finding names, started finding phone numbers and emails and things. Fast forward to the morning that day, and I end up contacting the company. Three names that I was looking to talk to, right? Individually, I kept getting told no. And so I said, well, I want to speak to corporate, right? And so they transferred me to corporate. It was a very good conversation until they found out that I would not release the bread to them that day. They would be there within a few hours to take the bread off my hands. We don't want that, in our kitchen. They're so sorry. And the moment I said that, no, things changed very quickly to more the legalese, we'll call it, right? And
Yeah.
so that then turned into I tried to get a hold of Tennessee Health Department, which the number online no longer exists. That's a whole different story. I end up contacting the local store manager where I bought the bread and said, "Hey, here's the photos. Here's what I saw." He asked right away, "Did you contact, the FDA? Did you contact the local health department? Did you contact, obviously, the manufacturer?" I said, "Yes, yes, yes." But no, not the FDA yet. So he said, "Well, you should definitely file a claim with them, a report with them," which I will tell you is a cumbersome invest process that takes a long time. There's a lot of questions that don't apply to much of anything out there, for let's just put it that way. So I did all that. That was the next day. The day after that, I got contacted by corporate and got kind of a runaround as well because they didn't know what it was, and they didn't have the lot number. So on the little plastic tab that actually ties the bread, that's what the lot number was. I was told that in the lot number they couldn't look into an investigation. I said, "Well, that's the problem with traceability. I can tell you the store I bought it at. I can give you the barcode, everything else. I think you can trace what plant that was manufactured. If not, we have a traceability issue." Well, the moment I said traceability, they backed off, of course, and yes, we'll look into it and everything else. So, let's just fast forward through a lot of conversations and emails, and everything else. I agreed to have it sent to a third-party lab. And you guys can go on my LinkedIn page. There's more information going back on this if you want more details. But the third-party lab looked at it, and they said that it was, quote, burnt bread, even though it looks just like a rodent, eye sockets, ears, tail, the whole 9 yards, right? And there was no sign of, quote, hair or organs on it. And guys, let me back up. I forgot the most important part. I'm sorry. When you look at the photos, and you can go on my LinkedIn page and see it yourself, it was clear that the knives had sliced through the FMC, burnt bread, burnt rodent, whatever you want to call it. And that's what's concerned me more than anything else, right? It's not like, oh crap, they're rolling up the back. That's bad, but that's a different kind of bad. This was where we had blades, as we all know as food safety people, are going to be contaminated, right? So I don't know if that was the last piece of that last loaf that went through for the end of the day, and then sanitation did a fantastic job cleaning. I have no idea. Was it the first one? Was it in the middle? I don't know. That's not my problem to figure out. But anything, as we all know as experts, that was sliced after that went through was contaminated.
Yeah.
Honestly, my wife Johanna, she's like, I'm just thankful that we got the one with the, quote, rodents on it so we could see it and not eat it, and not the one that was sliced right after that whatever was inside of that FMC contaminating my bread. So yeah, it's a food safety issue, right? Consumer health risk. But the part that bothered me the most was the lack of really customer care, customer support, consumer in this case, right? That's what bothers me more than anything else. I think, Brian and Cara, is just the whole culture. I'll just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put the link to Tim's profile on LinkedIn with all of the pictures and all of the back and forth and all the grossness so that you can go check it out yourself. But before I let you go here, Tim, I think part of this, and I'll go over an issue I'm going through here as well later in the chat, but it's that feeling of the broken trust, right?
Yeah.
We're professionals and we're in this field. I mean, just imagine that you're some poor consumer, right? Is your wife ever going to eat that bread again?
Nope.
No way in hell. No, it doesn't matter, right? Is she going to tell every single friend that she meets for the next 50 years what happened?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. My wife, 30 years ago, was eating a salad in a restaurant and there was a little inchworm on the salad. And she still tells that story, right, of her, right? It's that reaction, right? Her pulling away from the table and just screaming bloody murder when she saw that little worm on there. Mm-hmm. And the reaction to the chef was, it's organic. Would you like a new salad? And she's like, no, right? And it's that visceral reaction. And it's how you react to these things that is so important. So, and I applaud you, Tim, for what you're doing with this, because, speaking up is not easy, in what we do, and helping other people understand, because as food safety professionals, we want to know this stuff. We need to know this stuff so that we can quickly fix it. And to your point, the first thing I would have done the investigation if I thought this was a rodent was, all right, I want to know exactly, I want to look at the codes on there. I want to know this was manufactured because, yeah, those knives that are slicing that bread, everything after that from that point backward, right through that whole process was also being contaminated. And as we all know with mice and pest control, if you see one, that means there's a lot more. And man, do rodents love bakeries. And so there's probably something else going on here. My reaction as head of food safety for that company should have been, holy crap, all hands on deck. We need to be in this plant immediately to figure out what's going on. And we're going to stay at that plant until we've got it figured out. And again, it shows too, I think one of the key lessons you learn from this too, the bureaucracy of government of trying to get a hold of FDA, trying to get a hold of the state health department, trying to do all these things is extremely frustrating. Now, imagine if you're a consumer who doesn't have our background and understands where to even go with this.
Yeah.
Terrible. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cara.
I think the missing point too is like Tim's not looking for a lot of monetary compensation. He wants to help them get better and make sure that they're doing the right things. We're all in. We talk about it on here all the time. Food safety is not a point of competition. We are professionals in this area, and we are lending our expertise to fix this problem as quickly as possible and keep it from happening again. Period. That's all we want. And if we hit a brick wall, and this is where within companies, to your point, Tim, this is where companies put up the legal wall. Okay. Now it's in the legal realm, and we're going to let the lawyers handle this, and we're going to protect the company. What about the consumers?
Right.
And that's when you get these, we're very sorry about this incident and blah, blah. You get the boilerplate language. And nobody wants to see that. So fail, right? This is a big failure. And so any other closing thoughts here, Tim, before I let you go here?
No, I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing, and everyone's got to do better. It's a culture thing.
Yep, absolutely. So, thanks, Tim, for stepping up and taking care of food safety. We appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Brian. See you, Carl.
Talk to you later. Wow, that was cool, right? So first special
real life example.
Special guest. So that was very cool. So I think that's why we had to have Tim on here, because this was the perfect segue to this process, right? So Alexis is asking questions here that everybody should be asking, right? How to get in the process? How did it fall? Was it the raw dough? My guess is it fell into the process. So for bakeries, you make the dough, you bake the bread, and then you go through a process like a big spiral cooler to cool down the loaf of bread. Then it goes through a slicer, it goes in the bag, and off it goes. The material in question didn't appear to be baked. Could have been. Don't know. But my guess is it was introduced somewhere after the baking process, because it's not in the bread itself. It's kind of sitting on top, right? Right? So what the heck is going on there?
And like you said before, bakeries tend to attract pests. It's just the nature of the process. So
exactly. Gosh, right? This clearly escalates, and so we'll kind of bring this back into the more abstract realm. But the important lesson I think here to learn around this is food safety is personal. Okay? So Tim has had something happen that directly impacts his family. A trusted product that they've been eating for a long time with this bread company has now been violated. And that level of trust in that company within that particular market segment, right, baking of bread, and now food overall, their level of trust has just gone down. And that's really, really hard to bring back. Once you break that trust, Cara, good luck.
And you gave the example of your wife with the inchworm. I actually have an example that I use all the time in food safety training of my mom opening a package of sour cream, and it was moldy on top. And she has not bought that brand since. And that was in the 90s. And
occasionally we'll try, go grocery shopping for her and bring that brand in. And boy, that is, I'm out of the will if I do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so this is why it's so important is consumer complaints are one of the best leading indicators you have in your company for how things are going. And I think one of the key messages around this, I want to make sure that everybody understands in food companies, is a lot of times, Cara, we get too inwardly focused. We think we know what the consumer wants. The classic example for us old fogies, and the kids today don't know this story, but New Coke. So Coca-Cola changed their formula and they had this big rollout, New Coke, amazing, new and improved. Everybody hated it. Within a very short period of time, they had to bring back what they now call classic Coke. And they changed all around and they had to backtrack. Huge failure. And this is an example of why you have to be very careful with your R&D processes. Just because you can change it and just because you think it is better doesn't mean the consumer is going to agree with that. There's one key rule that I always emphasize in companies is the consumer does not want change. There are expectations that they have created for your product. There's a certain flavor profile I want from my coffee. If it changes, I'm going to complain. And if so, you have to listen to that. And companies a lot of times do not listen. And so with that, right, so I think there's some tools here, Cara, that I wanted to pull up here to get your comments on for these, to see if these are some good tools that are important in the marketplace. So as we've been talking about is trends of satisfaction. Right? And part of this is I want to emphasize this on, there's two buckets that we deal with. Food safety. I found a mouse-like substance on my loaf of bread. Food quality. I don't like how this tastes. It tastes weird, right? You need to always think in those terms, don't you?
Absolutely. And both can cause brand damage, right? It doesn't have to make somebody sick to cause brand damage.
Right. So you need to be looking at your trends in the marketplace for satisfaction, because I don't care what attributes the R&D group cares about with the product. I care from a quality standpoint what the consumer cares about. And as you're developing your products, you need to understand that and do focus groups, but you have to be careful. Focus groups, a whole nother conversation. But people in focus groups are biased. Okay? You have to be very, very careful. The best way to measure these type of things is something in the marketplace that somebody is paying money for, and they're not happy with what you did. The more you can extract from that to find out, oh my goodness, we're really sorry you didn't like that. Why? What did you not like? That's what you need to get to.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, that's a good point about focus groups, that they are biased. So it may not be the best tool, right, for your understanding of your products.
Yeah. And always remember too, there's two sets of criteria for evaluating product. There's the company technical information. The example I use, Cara, is I never had a single complaint ever for Silk soy milk, where a consumer said, I tasted this batch of soy milk that I bought yesterday from plant number blah, 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 and I think your pH is slightly out of range. No, they're going to complain and say, this tastes sour, or this tastes weird, or something like that. They don't care, right? They know what they're evaluating with, and you need to look at those things separately. Okay, fine, here's the viscosity range. Great. That's not how the consumer is going to express that. How do you translate that information?
Right, exactly. And you're absolutely right. It's not the technical information that the consumer, unless like Tim and you and I, we're going to have a little bit different aspect of it. But yeah,
exactly.
And gathering,
that's part of the that's the investigation. Yeah.
Exactly. And just getting a coupon for a new loaf of bread isn't going to necessarily cut it, like you were saying.
Let's say that Tim received a whole stack of free loaves of bread coupons from this company. Are any of those going to be used? No.
Right.
Are they even going to pass those out to their friends? No. They may pass them out to their enemies. But they're not going to eat that anymore. No. Ew. So part of it, here's a piece of advice around this as well too, is when you're creating your systems, right? So you want a good feedback mechanism so that you can understand complaints. Is a lot of times companies, Cara, struggle with categories. And how do you categorize your complaints? You have to be very, very careful with this. You need the right level of categories, not too many, not too little. So what do I mean by that? You want complaints categorized by chemical defects. Wow, I bought this cheese and it was too salty. Chemical, right? We added too much salt to that. Sensory. I tried this and it tastes weird. Microbiological, to your point, I bought this and it was moldy. In general, you want maybe 5 or 6 categories of complaints. Why? Because if you have too many categories and you dilute it out, it's going to make your complaint rates diluted as well. So you want a very good key indicator within those areas.
Well, and I also think too, and again, this is a training thing, right? If you have too many categories, remember who's collecting the data. Generally, it's your customer service line, people that probably don't have the same scientific background that the people developing the list do, and so they, might be confusing if you dilute it out too much, and then you get categories, or you get complaints and categories that may not really truly be the category. So
that's a great point. We're gonna talk about that more too, of the importance, the linkage between quality and customer service, and training of those individuals. So you need to understand your key drivers of liking, right? That's a nice R&D technical sensory term. Is you need to understand for your product categories, what are the key drivers of liking? Why do people buy your string cheese versus the competitor's string cheese? What do they like about it? So the example I would use in this is we had a fantastic tool in the past company I had where we had a quality survey for our brie. And I knew exactly what the consumers liked in the brie. They liked, if you're a brie eater, I love brie. And you got that nice white rind on the cheese, which is penicillium, by the way, it's a mold. And you want that nice white, and you can get contamination in the process where other type of molds want to grow, and you'll get little black spots, right? Ooh, bad. You don't want that. Or you leave it in the racks too long and it dries out, et cetera, et cetera. The consumers, when they buy that brie, they want to open it up and see that beautiful white rind and go, right? If you mess with that, they're going to let you know. And if I saw those in the complaints and I saw a trend, which is important, right? You need to be looking at trends. I would immediately go with the operations group and say, "Hey guys, we got a problem, right? Something going on in the maturation process with the brie that we need to dig into. Complaints are going up."
Yep, exactly. And that the trending is so important. I'm looking at all these chats that are coming in and trying to catch up on it.
Great. Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is a good point. We'll bring this up here too, for anonymous LinkedIn user. Spoil, we understand as quality professionals that moldy cheese is not a food safety issue, it's a quality issue.
Yep.
Does the consumer understand that? No. Does the consumer care? No. They got moldy cheese. What's wrong with you bastards, right? They don't want that. That's an expectation. And if you build into your training with quality, right, we're kind of already getting into this, is if you train your customer service group to say, well, thank you, Ms. Mickelson, for bringing this to our attention with the moldy cheese. Please be aware that mold is not a food safety defect and this is a quality issue. You're going to say, screw you.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I'm never buying your product again.
Yes, exactly. It's that trust, right? And that trust and the expectation that you care about their
Yeah, so you need to be diplomatic. So when you're working with your customer service group or interacting with your consumers, all right. So role play. Let's say, Cara, that you're calling me and I'm in customer service. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, hi, this is Brian, customer service. How can I help you?
Well, I would just like to call and complain about this moldy cheese. I took one bite and I threw up.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine being in that situation, Cara. I'm very sorry that this happened to you. I know personally that if I had moldy cheese, that would be awful. I need some information so that we can investigate this in the plant and make sure that this doesn't happen again. Do you still have the moldy cheese?
I do, and I appreciate your concern.
Thank you. And we appreciate you as a valued customer. Can you please do a favor for me? I need you to take some pictures of the moldy cheese and take a picture of the lot code. You're going to find that on the package on the lower left side. I'm going to get you my email now. You'll send that over, and I'm going to send you some coupons because we're very sorry this happened to you.
Well, I appreciate that.
And
That is
scene.
perfect, right? Like that's how you want to handle somebody. Because obviously, I don't know why they bit into moldy cheese, but yeah, you know, people do weirder
Okay,
things.
let's have some more fun. So let's do bad response now. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. Hi, XYZ Cheese Company. Can I help you?
Hi, I bought your cheese and it was moldy, and I took a bite and I threw up immediately.
Oh, yeah. So here at Moldy Cheese Company, we value our customers and we take everything that comes into consideration. Would you like a coupon?
I'm gonna pass. I would like an explanation of why your cheese was moldy.
Please fill out this online form that I'm going to be sending to you, and we can expect a result in 7 to 9 days. Please note as well that moldy cheese is part of the natural process associated with cheese. And once you open that package, mold begins to grow.
Oh my. Yeah, I'm gonna buy a different brand from now on, but thank you.
All right. Thank you for calling.
And that's not far off from some responses, right?
Right. And you can, if you're on the receiving end of that, you can see them reading the script in your mind.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And again, this is just a personal like complaint, I guess. Talking about customer complaints. If I have to fill out an online form and do all like because you know you're going to have to create an account, you're going to have to do a password and password out, and that it's just one more step, right? One more step for your customer that
Right.
isn't going to make them feel any more confident in your process.
Yeah. And in reality, what have you done now? You've created an enemy. You have created someone who is now actively disengaged, if not actively trying to let other people know that there's this issue. That is the absolute worst thing that you can do. You want a consumer to say, hey, things happen. I totally get it. I understand. The company made it right, and I appreciate what they did with that. And I appreciate, to your point, the empathy that was appreciated. Because as consumers, we all experience this. We all eat food, and nobody wants this to happen to themselves. So you have to do what you can in this process, and everything needs to be geared to turning that person, or at least maintaining them as an advocate for your product.
Exactly. And again, and I know we talked briefly about this, and I think we're going to talk about it too later, is social media. That can be the do or die for your, because you got one bad product and then bad customer service, and that's not going to be silent. That's probably not going to go silent. There's going to be ramifications.
Right. And so here's another important part of this. We'll link this into the food safety side of this. Is another. This is the third scenario, right? So the first two we were talking about was quality, how to respond and how not to respond. Now we're going to talk food safety. So we'll do the same thing. So, hi, thanks for calling XYZ Company.
Hi, I bought your product, which is cheese, and I took a bite and I got extremely ill.
Oh, wow. We're very sorry to hear that. This is extremely concerning to us. We want to make sure, number one, are you okay?
I am. After I saw the doctor, I was able to get I had to take in lots of fluids, and I didn't end up in the hospital, but I was ill at home for several days.
Oh, wow. That's awful. I mean, I know if I was in that situation, that's terrible. We want to begin an investigation into this immediately. Do you still have that cheese?
I do, and I would wrap it up and send it where you would like me to send it, if possible.
We're going to send somebody directly to your house. We have a recovery service. It's a company called XYZ, and they are going to be coming to your location, Miss Mickelson, and they are going to be getting the cheese directly from you. This will remain in our chain of command. This is going to a third-party laboratory who's going to be doing analysis on this. We're going to be getting back to you within the next 7 days to let you know what has happened with this. In addition to that, I'm going to immediately let our food safety teams within the company that there's this issue that we need to investigate, and we're going to look into this immediately.
Wonderful. I appreciate your concern.
Thanks for calling, and we're very sorry this happened. We'll get back to you right away.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. See Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, my next call is to the head of food safety.
Absolutely.
Miss Jones, yeah, this is customer service. We just received a complaint for a potential illness. I'm forwarding to you all of the information for this. We should be getting the sample back to our third-party laboratory within the next 3 days. And the head of food safety, I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to activate my teams, and we're going to start doing an investigation.
And as a head of food safety, you should be looking at the trends. What are the trends happening with the illness complaints? Is this a single one, or are you receiving a whole bunch of them? And now, like we were talking about with trend analysis, are they escalating quickly?
Yeah, exactly. And this gets into this piece that we've been talking about here is training. The quality group, the food safety group, and the consumer affairs, customer service teams need to be in very, very close contact. Number one, dealing in consumer complaints and talking with the public is a hard job, right? So part of that job is you are constantly dealing with people who are upset, who are angry, who don't like something that you did. And they may be looking for coupons or other things as well too. But a lot of it, you're dealing with a lot of grief. If you're in a large company, you're getting just constant inundation with issues or things like this that you have to deal with. Now the goal then is to minimize that. But as a result of this, Sankara, there's a lot of turnover in this role. And you have to be constantly training with this group and teaching them what we're talking about here today is here's how you respond to things. Here's how you escalate. And you make it very clear, right? You beat it into their heads that if that food safety issue comes up, you need to immediately escalate. This isn't something that goes on a weekly report. This is something you need to immediately let us know about with all this information, and here's how you do it.
Yep, absolutely. The process, like Tim was saying here, I think he had said that, or the process is important, right? Have a definitive process where the escalation of the categories and of the complaints, and involving the senior leadership when necessary. Like you just, just making sure that they're.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, nobody likes to be the bearer of bad news, but this is news that the company has to hear. And we'll talk about more of the flip side and the reporting side of that as well, too. So in larger companies, so for example, at WhiteWave, we had internal people who would answer, but it was just too much. And so we had an outside agency that we worked with who would then handle complaints and information from the public and stuff like this. And I had an individual on my team, that was part of her job, was to work with this group constantly and she would fly down to Texas every now and then and sit down with those teams and the leadership and talk with them. Because part of this is these external companies that you may be using for complaints, they have lots of companies that they're working with. They're working with you, they're working with Mars, they're working with pet food companies, right? And there's different scripts and different things and different ways these different companies want them to react with the public. Ideally, you would handle this in-house, but it becomes very large at a point you can't do that. So you need to be constantly calibrating with those groups and teaching them. And what you'll notice in these little scenarios that Cara and I have been working through, the empathy piece of it is hard to teach. And it's something that you need to have the right person in for that in order to do that correctly. And looks like Cara's frozen. Is she back?
It was refreshing.
There we go. You're back. And so I was talking there, Cara, about empathy. And you need to make sure that the people that you're using to talk with the public, they are the company. If you're the consumer, nobody else matters. That person on the other end of the lines, hi, thanks for calling XYZ company. Can I help you? That is the company, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That 100% makes sense. So,
yeah. And it all hinges on that. So you have to have the right people in these roles. You have to find people who are empathetic. You have to find people who can be diplomatic. You have to find people who can work to resolve an issue as quickly as possible and get that information correctly gathered, because that's key too. you need lot codes, you need pictures, you need exact information. They need to be very good at extracting that information, don't they?
Right, exactly. Extracting the information, but again, the empathy, doing it in an empathetic manner rather than just checklist, just
Yep.
a checklist.
Yeah, here's another good tip of what I would do as well in the past too. Is we had, and I didn't create this; it was in place already. We had at White Wave what we called a quality alert, and so huge company, right? Billions and billions in sales. We had lots and lots of customers. We had a quality alert. So the consumer group was also trained for these food safety issues, but also if they had 3 complaints in the same category, so microbiological, for example, mold, your example, for the same product code, for the same plant, then that would immediately get to us in quality too, because that could be a trend. We
Yes,
wanted to make sure that there wasn't something going on.
that's a great process, right? Like that makes sense, and it's easy to decipher, right? It's
Yeah.
it's an easy escalation plan.
Mhm.
Where if you get it, like we said with the categories, if you get it too complex, it's not going to get escalated in time, and that can lead to bigger issues.
Yep. And this consumer group can be very, very helpful as well too, for we were talking here about new product development. So when a new product goes into the marketplace, part of my job in quality assurance, right, not the food safety side, but the food quality side of things, is to understand what the consumer's reaction to that new product is. What do they like? What do they not like? So that I can understand how I need to guard that product. I need to set up limits, like my brie example earlier. The rind has to be white, period, right? If I see information in the marketplace that the rind is not white, I need to react quickly because the consumers are going, blah, right? They hate it.
Exactly. Yep. Very easy parameters to decipher, right? Like easy, because not everybody's going to have the same, like you were talking about, the pH level, or many people that are gathering the information probably don't even know what pH is. So why,
Yeah.
easy, simple terminologies.
Yeah, why would they? So part of this then too is often within quality, I think this is kind of cool where AI and things like this can help in the future as well too, is we are inundated with data. And part of this then is figuring out this data and making it make sense. And this is where now within the quality assurance side of things, this becomes very important because now you need to take this avalanche of information coming back from the consumers and translate it for the rest of the company. This is not something that you're going to hide in quality assurance and use it just to track your stuff. You need to translate this. And this is why, again, why these categories become so important. And figuring out within your company, what are the key metrics you need to be measuring in quality assurance that everybody else needs to see? So, of course, one of the first ones, Cara, relative to this is complaints per million units or pounds or whatever it is that you use, right?
Right. And I know, and I guess this is, somewhat of an aside to this, but quality people receiving so much data. So anything that you can do to simplify it so that they can just look at a sheet of paper and say, okay, I see a trend. Anything you can do to make it an easy process for them, because again, they just receive so much data throughout the week. How do you elevate and escalate things if you can't even figure out the data or find the data? Because you're dealing with other fires as you go through the week. So.
Yep. So graphs are your friends, right? So
right?
it's easy, and this is always part of what I always preach against, that we need to be very aware of in this field, is we think the data speaks for itself. Well, all you have to do is look at this data and you immediately know where. No, right? You need to take that data and translate it into digestible terms. Green, yellow, red. Green, hey, we're hitting our targets. Yay. Yellow, kind of heading in the wrong direction. Red, oh my God, house is on fire. We need to fix this right away. And you then need to keep this data in reserve. So pretend you're talking to the senior leadership and you're like, okay, well, we've been monitoring our complaint rates relative to this new product, and here's some of our key indicators, and here's the trends that we're seeing in this. We're heading in the wrong direction for key attributes around texture. That then is going to trigger a conversation with your leadership team. So now the operations guy is going to say, well, we have seen some variance in the stabilizers that we're using in our products. Head of R&D, what do you think about that? Yeah, well, we've been changing around a little bit of the formulation. procurement guy, what do you think? Well, yeah, we've been sourcing some new stabilizer suppliers that we've been bringing in and qualifying. Maybe there's something going on there that we don't know. QA guy, let's do an investigation to figure out and get back to us.
Super easy and super seamless, right? You can track two different supplier. They're messing with the formulation. Can track that so easily and then correlate it so easy. Whereas if you had several different categories for, let's say, texture, and I'm just making kind of making it up, but like graininess, too wet or something like that, and people were trying to categorize them into those, that would be missed in your customer complaints.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely.
Now, here's an important tip for everybody. Here's a pro tip. We're very good in quality at looking at the past. Here was our complaint rate for last quarter. Great. Who cares?
Great.
This is to your point, Cara, and I want to emphasize this with everybody. What's the trend? What do we need to be doing in the coming months to turn this around? The past is the past. Nobody cares. What are you doing in quality to turn this trend around and fix it? Right? We want to see the graph going down. Complaints are going down. Yay!
Yeah.
Celebrate. Right? That's what you want to do. Don't regurgitate.
And I'm sure it's an unpopular position sometimes, but sometimes you do have to admit, you know what, we kind of screwed up, or we didn't do, we started messing with the kind of like New Coke, where they brought back classic Coke. Then you say, well, whoops, we thought it would be good, and it wasn't. But this is how we're doing our corrective actions.
Yep, and you need to start looking at trends relative to the data too. I mean, you can be extremely valuable. So if you start looking at your complaints, and let's say to your cheese example, Cara, you say, I'm going to slice and dice these complaints. And you figure out that 80% of your complaints for mold come in the last 10% of the shelf life. Oh, isn't that interesting? Maybe our shelf life is too long.
Exactly.
Now you're going to trigger a conversation on that. Now this is an example of what we preach about on here too. Quality is part of the company. You're not separate. Your goal is to make the consumer happy and sell more products so everybody has jobs, and you're doing what you need to do. That's a key point, right? So now that you have this hypothesis that our shelf life is too long and it's elevating complaints, now a operational and a business discussion takes place. How does this impact the brand? How does this impact future growth curves? How does this impact shelf life velocity? How does this impact all of those aspects associated with the product? So now you're involving operation, procurement, R&D, marketing, sales, all these groups. And now senior leadership can understand that and make a business decision. And they may very well come back and say, these few isolated complaints that happen toward the end of shelf life do not outweigh the additional sales and the shorts that we don't have on our products in the marketplace. It's a shitty decision, but it's what we got to do until we can figure out why we're getting this mold at the end of the product. R&D, go fix that.
Exactly. No, that's a great point. Great point. Team effort, right? I think sometimes, especially with customer complaints, especially if they're micro related or foreign material related or things like that, allergens, I think quality gets tapped on the shoulder and like, hey, you guys got a problem. It's like, well, wait a second. It's not just our problem. It's a team effort for making sure that those get turned around, the corrective actions get implemented.
Yeah, there's a company I've worked with for a long time, and they do a fantastic beverage product, a plant milk beverage product, and they understand exactly in the marketplace what the key drivers are for complaint, taste and texture.
Right.
And part of my role in that was to constantly remind within that company that I consulted for is, guys, do not mess with taste and texture. Do not. Because if those complaints go up, it's because you monkeyed with taste and texture.
Because you did it. You shot yourself in the foot, right? Like yep, exactly. If you have and again, you have the data, you understand it, go with it, right? And don't, sometimes like if it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
Well, and my goal in that is to get that quality information out of that bubble and get it to the groups that need it. So R&D needs to understand, right? And I drilled it into their heads. When they're developing new products, they need to focus strongly on taste and texture.
Exactly.
Is that taste and texture the same at the end of shelf life?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Because that's what
Right?
that's what your consumers want, right?
Yes.
Like, and that kind of circles all the way back to when we were talking about, focus groups and things like that. Knowing what your consumers want is going to help you. It's an entire system, right?
Yep.
And that's where I do think I agree. The culture, and I know we mentioned culture, but culture plays a big part in it. That you're not just in silos. That it's not just the R&D silo, the quality silo, the marketing silo. You all have to work together to make sure
Yep.
that the product is harmonized, right? The systems are.
So here's a key thing to think about with that. The goal of marketing is to get people to buy. The goal of quality is to keep them buying.
Right. That's a great one.
I just thought of that. I'm going to write that down. I love that.
That needs to be somebody's mission.
That needs to be trademarked. I like that.
You can tag Brian.
That's right. Copyright Brian 2025. I'm writing it down right now. I love it.
That is awesome.
Exciting.
I love that too.
Here's another key thing you need to think about your complaint information is you're creating these KPIs, you're creating your reports, you're creating limits for consumer complaints per million units. And you're figuring out all these benchmarks. Those need to be shared within the company. Everybody needs to have a stake in that, and it needs to be tied to their bonuses so that everybody's involved with that. Another key point on this is, and this is super important, is we have what's called the verbatims. Right? So what's a verbatim? Well, a verbatim is when consumers actually take the time to fill out an online survey or they get a phone call or something and they tell you about the product. And there's bad stuff. Don't forget the good stuff. Oh, the good stuff is gold, absolute gold. I buy your product all the time. I've been buying your product for the last 3 years. When I'm in the store, I'll buy 2 or 3 at a time because we go through so much. Keep doing what you're doing. Love, 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 love.
100%. That can speak volumes, right, for your product, and people trust that. Consumers trust other consumers and their opinions and recommendations. Right.
So what I used to do in the past is when I would get the verbatim information back, we had a really good program in a past company. I would get these verbatims back. And every week I would send those to the plants. They would print them. And my quality managers would put them on a bulletin board outside the employee locker rooms. And the employees would gather around and read those. And it would make them happy because they saw that they were making people happy. Also, I have now made the connection that you are selling food. You are making people happy with the food. This isn't something that gets thrown in a box and disappears into the ether. This is food, and this is making people happy. Be proud of what you're doing. I remember one time.
That's such a great example with the posting it, because I think a lot of times employees, all they hear is, "You're not doing this good enough. You're not doing it. Yeah. Do this better. Do this. Do this. Do this." But you don't hear the accolades a lot of times.
No.
And everybody likes to be told that they're doing a good job.
Right. And what do we start the chat? What do we start the chat with? Right? Nobody notices, but we do. Good job. That's why we do that. We're helping people understand.
I love that. I think that's something that should be implemented all over.
I remember one time, Cara, I was on vacation or something, and it got missed, and I didn't send the report out. Oh, did I hear it? Every single plant said, "Where the hell are our consumer feedbacks?" And I was like, "Oh, awesome. Yes, they read them." And that was when I first realized how important this was in that process.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I really do love that. That's like motivational Monday, right?
Yeah. Well, and part of this too, before we kind of get to our closeout here, is also you need to be looking at this information to figure out consumer talking points. What are the things that people in the marketplace, to your point earlier, Cara, social media. Tim had a super bad experience. I'm going through an issue right now with Hilton where I posted online, where I had no response, right? I had a bad experience with a room. My wife was like, ugh. And Hilton has not responded, which is atrocious, right? Because now I'm in public trashing them. And if you travel a lot, it's either Marriott or Hilton, right? Those are the two that you're staying at. Guess which hotel I'm going to be staying more at now?
Right. The opposite.
So pay attention to these social issues. One of the things that we see, I think Bana has posted on this as well too online, is shrinkflation, right? So you get us, okay, things are more expensive. So the company goes, okay, I'm going to make the package smaller and sell it for the same price. People notice that, and people don't like it. How do you want, if your company's going to do this, and you may have to do this, how do you want your consumer affairs group to respond to that?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yep. Another one, part of the process, right? Part of the process.
Yeah.
Ensuring
Absolutely.
your message is conveyed.
And again, right, as we bring this back to the 30,000 foot level, I always talk about plan, do, check, act, right? What are we talking about? It's exactly what we're talking about. How do we want to make this product? How are we going to do it in the plants? How are we going to check if our consumers like it? And if it doesn't work, how are we going to course correct to get that product back to what the consumers want?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. It doesn't have to be a dead end, right? And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Engagement.
Any other closing thoughts, Cara, you'd like everybody to be left with today, or?
Oh, no, I thought this was a great chat. We really it went by so fast. So I want to thank Tim too for popping in and telling us his story. And I want to hear the resolution.
Absolutely.
Be able to write a book someday.
Yeah. So as anybody who follows Cara on LinkedIn, which you should, you're very busy. You got a couple of things here coming up, don't you?
I do. Next week, I'm so excited. I'm going to the University of Arkansas Extension and helping out with a listeria workshop. I'm actually going to be running doing a little sanitation game that we call Chem Clinic, and it's like a game of seek and destroy. You get a little map, and you get to pick sites, and it's a lot of fun. We try and make it a lot of fun. And then we have our we call it CSI, it's Chem Station Institute, coming up in October. That's another one where we do a lot of workshop and activities and things like that. So I think Brian has put that in the chat there. Super excited about that coming up. But yeah, there's so many things going on now. It's been a really exciting time talking about staying in hotels. That's been my life the last couple of months, which is wonderful. I appreciate it. So.
Well, that's good. And thank you, Cara, for sharing all your knowledge and expertise out there. I mean, it's what we're about here in food safety, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no sense in staying home, right?
and so a couple of other links in here is, so here's a link to Tim's profile. And I think this should link to his actual post around the bread issue and the burnt bread that they found within that. And then also I had alluded to, we really didn't have time to talk about it here today, my issue with a recent stay at a Hilton property in Tennessee and my lack of a response back from them on resolution. And again, like Tim said, we're not trying to get something out of this. We just want to make the experience better for the next people coming in, right? Nobody should have to experience these things.
Exactly. And and that's exactly all of these. If somebody calls in, most of the time it's that they want to just make the process better. And how can you as a producer make it better unless you know? And if you don't know, it's not going to change.
Yeah, and nobody likes to be ignored. If you ignore someone, you're making the problem much, much worse because they are now going to take it personally, and you never want that.
No, that makes it very, very uncomfortable situation, right? Especially with social media.
Yep, very true. So with that, guys, we're gonna close out our chat for this week. Thank you, Cara. I mean, amazing input as usual. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I always appreciate it.
And to our special guest appearance, the first time here on the chat with Tim Steffensmeyer, of course, with Pure Bioscience, and you're with Chem Station as well. I want to make sure and get those in as well. I did put the chat in the chat. I put the links in there for all the fun activities as Cara is up to. You're a whirlwind. You're always all over the place. This makes me tired seeing all the stuff that you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Tim, don't blame Tennessee for Hilton's issues. Okay. I'm receiving that. I'm receiving that food safety chat consumer feedback, and I appreciate it. And I will take your considerations in. And I thank you for checking with food safety chat.
We'll get that to you shortly.
Cool. So with that, guys, thanks a lot. We're going to bring this chat to a close. We appreciate you being here. We know that time resource is valuable, and we're very excited that you chose to be with us. And with that, enjoy your weekend. Go out and have some fun. And we'll see you back here next Friday for the next food safety chat on LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time, of course, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern. And I'll bring another amazing guest like Cara and Tim on the show. So thanks again, Cara, and everybody. We'll see you next week.